All right, let's look at some questions related to the first few slides from our managerial accounting chapter. If we look here at our handout, up here at the top, it says, what term is used to describe the process of developing the organization's objectives and translating those into courses of action? Okay, so the key word here really is right here. Developing what? The organization's objectives. So we have four choices here. And two of the four we actually looked at in our presentation. But if we're talking about when we talk about supervising, this is a type of monitoring. Improving we didn't discuss. Decision making we also did not discuss. This is a type of planning. We're developing goals, and we're coming up with it. We're coming up with a course of action. We're not yet executing it. So our answer is going to be B, planning. Okay, let's take a look at the second one. It said, what term is used to describe the process of monitoring operating results and comparing actual results with the expected results? Anytime you have this type of language about monitoring operating results and comparing actual results to what you had planned, you're getting into a heavy dose of accounting there. And when we look at these four choices, there's one of these choices we discussed in the presentation, controlling, directing, and planning. And I told you that one of those was more closely aligned, or at least slightly more closely aligned with accounting, and the answer is B. So when you see language, when we're talking about making a comparison of actual and expected results, you need to align that in your mind with the company controller, who is generally some type of an accountant. Okay, next question. It says, what is the primary criterion for the preparation of managerial accounting reports? All right, let's look at our four choices. A says relevance of the reports. This is a financial accounting item, so it's not correct. Manager needs is going to be our correct answer. Timing is also wrong because it is a criterion for financial reporting, and we're asking about we're talking about managerial accounting. Cost of the reports is a consideration with managerial accounting, but it says what is the primary criterion. This would be a secondary criterion, so manager needs is the correct answer. Okay, it says, which of the following is an example of direct materials cost for an automobile manufacturer? Which of the following is an example of direct materials cost? Cost of oil lubricants for factory machinery. This is an indirect cost related to factory overhead. And therefore, it is wrong. Cost of wages for assembly workers is also wrong. This is direct labor. I'll abbreviate that. Salary of a production supervisor is also wrong. This is indirect labor, which is a part of factory overhead. Cost of interior upholstery is going to be our correct answer. Direct materials, interior upholstery, looks right to me, and it looks right because it is right. All right, next question. It says indirect labor and indirect materials are classified as, and it looks like they're asking for 2 answers for each one of these. Okay, it says factory overhead and product cost, factory overhead and period cost, operating costs and period costs, operating costs and product costs. So both of these have to match. What we want to understand is that indirect labor and indirect materials are part of factory overhead. They're absolutely part of factory overhead. Operating costs would be necessary costs for the company that don't have anything to do with the product itself. The costs are not specifically rolled into cost of goods sold when the product is sold to a buyer. So we can automatically eliminate choices C and D because they don't include factory overhead anywhere in them. So now we need to know what the difference is between a product cost and a period cost. And if we understand that factory overhead costs become part of total product costs, then we can identify A as the correct answer. Period costs are selling expenses, administrative expenses, these types of items. Therefore, it is also an incorrect answer. All right, let's look at our last question. It says direct materials and direct labor of a company total $8 million. If manufacturing overhead is $4 million, what is the direct labor cost? So, what we need to understand about this question is that all 3 of these items, direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, these are the 3 components of product cost, okay? And they are all separate items. So the fact that we have manufacturing overhead of $4 million has absolutely nothing to do with what direct labor cost is. So you might be tempted to look at your choices and say, well, 8 million and 4 million, 4 from 8 is 4, and A is the correct answer. It is not. Okay? Well, actually, it might be, but we don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and skip down to the correct answer, which is D, cannot be determined from the information provided. And the reason that is because what we know is that these 2 items, direct material and direct labor cost, total $8 million. But we don't know how much direct labor we had, and we don't know how much direct materials we had. We just know that these 2 items total $8 million. Again, the fact that manufacturing overhead is $4 million, this is a completely separate number. If we were to ask you what is our total product cost, well, the answer would be 12 million. It'd be this 8 million and 4 million, but that's not the question. So given the question that we have, we cannot determine the answer from the information provided. Basically, I'm trying to get you to understand that these 3 items, while a part of product costs, are completely separate from each other.